Okay, awesome, guys. We are recording. My name again is Rabbi Menag. I'm director of Israel XP, and I'm going to teach you guys Bezat Hashem this semester Halacha. So this is Halacha level 1. First off, okay, good. So this is Halacha level 1. Welcome everybody. We'll give another minute or two for people to join. If you have not joined the WhatsApp group, join the WhatsApp group for Halacha. It was posted on the students' WhatsApp group, so get in there so that way you have a direct line to me and I can post any kind of announcements that I have to post on there. So join that WhatsApp group if you haven't joined it yet. After this period, next period, I'm teaching Halacha level 2. For those of you that did level 1 and think, oh, maybe I want to try out level 2. So for this week, you're in level 1, like level 1. If you want to try out level 2 next on our next class, God willing, it'll be in person. You can definitely switch it up. But for today, don't take this class today and the next period because it's gonna be pretty similar intro stuff to where Halacha is. And I'll tell you in this class what's gonna be difference between level 1 and level 2 in Halacha. Make sense? Everybody good? People, okay, let's see. From a show of hands over here, how many over here are in Israel right now? Anybody in Israel right now? How many are on East Coast? East Coasters. Okay, very good. West Coast? West Coast, West Coast? Okay, East Coast class over here. Central of America over here. Any Midwest, Central, East? Okay, we got a little of that. Canada, a little Canadians? Canadians? Could also be East Coast and West Coast. There are other coasts up there too. Okay, got it. Okay, good. So a little bit of a mix. Okay, good. So again, so my name is Rabbi Menagid. You guys are in topics of Halacha, topics of Jewish law, level 1. So a couple things about this class. I'm going to put up the syllabus right now. So let's do that. Okay, guys. People. Okay, guys. Do you guys? Everybody see? Hold on. Everybody see over here the unmute somebody and tell me you see the background?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, it awesome. Okay, so what is this class all about? This class is going to be an overview of Jewish law based on daily living. So I have over here different simanim, different numbers, but basically what we're going to be doing in this class is halacha from daily life. It's the practical simanim from the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch till the end of like daily wake up stuff, and then towards the end of the semester we're going to skip to like some food laws, some berachot, and like that kind of stuff. The idea of this class is to be practical. It's more of the how to get things done. Okay, so that's the idea we're going to do. We're going to go through practical law, talk about the practical law, talk a little bit about the whys behind some of those laws, and just in general, the way the grading works for the class is that we're going to have 30% based on attendance. But the truth is now with the start on Zoom, we're going to be a little more easygoing about that as well. So you don't have to be as worried about that as well. And then 70% of the grade will be a final at the end of the semester. Okay, makes sense? Question on that stuff? Pretty straightforward. We're going to go through halacha, and then Bezrat Hashem, we're going to get tested at the end and see what we know. But again, the idea of the class is we want to do practical law. Okay, so first off, just for attendance right now, if everybody in the chat can just write your name in the chat, and that will have ourselves a little bit of that. So everybody right now, just write your name in the chat. Awesome. Okay, good. Cool. Okay, good. You got your name inside there. Now, for those of you that the timing is like really too intense and is like way too crazy and it's not going to work as well. So at some point in the middle of the class, I'm going to say that if you're watching us online right now, if you're like watching a recording of it, like send me a private message with like whatever the actual word is to my WhatsApp. And that way I'll take attendance that way for people that are joining in later on with video. But I always recommend like people come to the class live. Let's talk it out. Let's have some discussions. So again, the idea is we're doing Jewish law, but the idea of the Jewish law is we want to make it interactive. I want you guys to ask as many questions as possible. You guys are now adults, and as adults, then awesome. Let's learn how to do things right. Let's be Jews the way we're supposed to be Jews. Let's be some proud Jews. We know with all the craziness here in Israel right now, and in really the whole world, the amount of Jews that are stepping it up right now. First off, kol hakavod to all of you that have been doing so much for us here in Israel up until now. But there are so many Jews stepping it up with halacha in every little kind of way, whether it's Shabbat candles, whether it's tzitzit campaigns. Here in my neighborhood here in Israel, we in Beit Shemesh, we probably put together 700 tzitzits that were sent out. The program by us in Ramadan sent out some tzitzit as well. You have this whole awakening now of halachic observance. So the idea in this class right now is going to be, okay, how do we keep halacha? So first up, I want to ask you guys some questions. You guys can unmute yourself, no problem, right? So I want to ask you a question. Let's talk a little bit about halacha. What does halacha mean?
Does it have anything to do with like walking?
Oh,
Like
good. Okay, good. Has to do something with walking. The literal word. What's the literal word come from? What's the root? The literal word Judah is from holech. Holech, to walk. Good. Excellent. And somebody else I heard said Jewish law. So yeah, we translate halacha as Jewish law, meaning it's the rules that we keep as Jews because we want to be good Jews. But why would the root be holech? Why would the root be the way you walk? There it is.
Walking the way of life.
Excellent. Good. What is Torah? Let's go back one step before that. Intro class today. Today we're doing intro to halacha. What does Torah mean?
It's a guidebook.
It's a guidebook. Okay, Torah is a guidebook to life. It's also a little bit of philosophy in there, a little bit of history in there as well. A little bit more just the guidebook. What does Torah mean? Anybody know?
Manual.
Manual? Okay, it is a manual. What is that? What is that? I don't know if that's the definition. Anybody know the root of the word Torah? Guys, who here? Okay, next question. Who here has gone to Jewish day school? Okay, good. Okay, that's actually okay. It's about 2/3 of you. Okay, good. So 2/3 of you. Who here has learned Torah in Jewish day school? Okay, I get about 2/3 of you. Okay, fine. So for those that have not gone to day school, then I give you guys a little bit of a pass. But those that have gone to day school right now, okay, what does the word Torah mean? The most basic word of Judaism. What does the word Torah mean in Hebrew?
Teachings.
What's the root? Huh?
Teachings.
Teachings. Good. Excellent. There's a word in modern Hebrew. You're going to find it at Bar Ilan University. Bezat Hashem, when you guys get here, you're going to walk around. You're going to see the word hora'ah. Hora'ah means instruction. It means teaching. What's another word that comes from the root? Moreh. What is a moreh? A teacher. A morah is a teacher. So the idea of Torah is the root of the word is teaching, it's instructions. The book of Torah is the book of instructions. Now the Torah is also known as Torah Chaim. What is Torah Chaim? Is it Etz Chaim? Okay, a little bit of a step back, guys. I'm going to throw out a bunch of Hebrew words throughout my classes. If anybody here, you don't have to know any Hebrew for this class, but I'm going to throw out words because I assume that you know some basic words. Like I assume that you know what the word Torah means, even though you don't know Torah means instruction, but you kind of get what the word Torah means. Okay, so I'm going to throw out a bunch of words assuming that you know things. But if there's any word that I say that you don't understand, then please be like, "Allo, Rabbi, I have no clue what that word actually means. Can you please translate that word?" That's normal. You don't have to know any words for this class. Number two, this is actually going to be very important when it comes to halacha. I'm going to pronounce my Hebrew for the most part with more of a kind of like a Sephardic accent. My father, Alav Shalom, was born in Syria. My mother, Alav Shalom, was born in Poland. So I have a bit of Sephardi, a bit of Ashkenazi, a little bit of a 2.0, what we call the Hetzis, the half-halves here in Israel. So I come from a little bit of both of those backgrounds. But in halacha, we're going to learn most of the time it's going to follow the father. We're going to learn about some exceptions to that as well. And therefore, even when I pronounce things, I'm going to pronounce things a little bit more of a Sephardic accent, a little bit more of a modern Israeli accent at times, a little bit less of the Ashkenazi accent. But for those that missed the Ashkenazi accent, that grew up with that and really want it, I can flip and give it to you as well if it's going to make you feel a little bit better. But again, if you don't understand what I'm saying, if you don't understand how I'm pronouncing what I'm saying, just raise your hand and then Bezrat Hashem, I'll translate it and get that. Okay, so we have ourselves Torah, and the Torah is known as Torah Chaim. What is Torah Chaim? What is Chaim? L'chaim, people, what is
Life.
Life. Good. Should have long life. We should all have a good, healthy, fun, and life. It should be awesome stuff. Okay, so Torah Chaim is called the Torah of life because it's the book of life. So on the one hand, it's like you guys said, it's instructions, it's rules, it's laws, it's a guidebook, but it's not just a guidebook of a how-to of how do I put on my shoes in the morning and how do I make a blessing on something. It's actually a book that goes through philosophy. It goes from the most basic to the most esoteric. Guys, what does the word esoteric mean? Let's get a fancy English word. Esoteric. Huh?
Complicated.
Complicated? No, I want a better word than complicated. Esoteric could be complicated. Doesn't have to be. know what esoteric means? Esoteric means deep, mystical. You guys know what mystical is? Kabbalistic. The Torah is going to go from the most basic understanding of things to some of the more deep of the deep. Halacha focuses more on the how-to of how to do things. But even in the how-to, the deep of the deep, the most mystical will affect the how-to, especially first semester, we're talking about wake-up laws and Yadayim laws. The mystical ideas are going to come in full sense. So we're actually going to try to cover halacha from every angle. Okay. Torah is known as Torah Chaim, like we said, it's the Torah of life. It's also known as Etz Hayim Lamachazikim Ba. It's the tree of life. We grab onto it. Those that read the Torah portion last week, Parashat Bereshit, we spoke about the tree of life. What is the tree of life? According to mystical ideas, it's the Torah. We have to grab onto the Torah. That's where our life is going to come from. That's where good stuff are going to be. Okay. Now let's get a harder Hebrew word. You with me, guys? Hashkafa. Anybody know what the word hashkafa means?
Philosophy.
Philosophy. Good. A little deeper word, academic word. Let's get a little more Barilani. Theology. It's religious philosophy. Hashkafa, and you know what the root is, Isaac. What's the root of hashkafa? Do you know? The root of the word hashkafa. Charlie, what?
Shachar.
Charlie. No. Second guess. The root of the word hashkafa is lashkith. Lashkith means to look and to see. So it's true. Like Isaac said, it means philosophy, it means a theology, it's how we understand things. But in the base root, it means it's our view of the world. We have what's called halacha, and we have what's called hashkafa. Halacha are the rules that we walk on. When we have that path in life in Judaism, so we walk on that path. We're walking on the path of life. How do we do things? How do we make our choices? But what are we looking at while we're walking? How are we looking at what we're walking? Are we looking down exactly where our feet are? Are we looking at the beautiful nature all around us? What are we looking at while we're walking? How do we understand where we're walking? That's called hashkafa. So for those of you that didn't make it onto the Zoom class live, and you listen to me right now in the recording, send me a private message with the word hashkafa, and that way I know you listened to this class right now. But the word hashkafa means the view that we have while we're walking. So halacha is the path we're taking in life, where we're going in life. And that's halacha. That's the holech. And hashkafa is now, what do we see while we're going? Now, how we view life will affect that path that we're walking on. Now, we believe that we as Jews try to have a very similar path, meaning we know there's differences in halacha. Anybody know how do we find differences in halacha? Not everybody keeps the same halacha. You guys give me examples of differences in how people keep halacha.
Well, I don't keep halacha.
Yosef.
Sephardic and Ashkenazi.
You're good. Sephardic and Ashkenazi. Good. We're going to get into that in this class. Other ideas.
Family customs.
I say again.
Family customs.
Family customs. We have what's called minhag, which means custom. Okay, good. There's laws, there's rules, there's customs. Okay, actually, let's take it a step back. Very nice. We have laws that come from the Torah. Those are called deoraita in Aramaic, Torah laws in Hebrew. We have Torah that God came to us. How many rules did God give us?
613.
613. It's actually 613 categories. In those categories are hundreds and hundreds of other laws. Like, for example, there's a category of set up a court system. Setting up a court system comes up with hundreds of laws of how to have a practical court system. But we have ourselves 613 categories of rules that God gave us in the Torah. Good. That's one type of law. What else do we have?
Dirabanan.
You have Dirabanan, we have rabbinic laws. We have rules that the rabbis came along the way, and they said, you know what? Either they said, we got to be careful. We're getting too close to burning ourselves. Let's make a little bit of some fences. Or they said, we got to add some stuff. We got to do a little bit more to create an ambiance, to create a vibe, you know? And the rabbi, for example, for Shabbat, you know, about half the laws we have for Shabbat are rabbinic because they want to create a vibe. Like, for example, they said, instead of just saying Kiddush with our mouth, let's do it on a cup of wine. Let's have 2 chals on the table, according to many opinions. So the idea is, let's create a vibe. Okay, so that's rabbinic laws. Then we have minhagim, customs that have developed. And then we have, Yosef said very nice, we have ourselves Sephardic and Ashkenazi. We have different ways to interpret it. Another way to have different laws is we have ultra-Orthodox, regular Orthodox, Haredi, Hasidic. We have, within Ashkenazi, you're going to have the Litvaks, you're going to have the Hasidim. Within the Sfaradim, we're going to have the Syrians, the Moroccans, the Persians, the Bukharians, the Kafkazis. We're going to have so many types. Then we have the Yemenites. The Yemenites are their own world in halacha as well. Now, we know in Judaism as well, things have expanded out to conservative and reform, which have also created certain movements that are not as tied to the tradition as well. This class, we are ultimately an Orthodox program. We're going to be approaching halacha from the Orthodox perspective, which means Orthodox, we believe the Torah came from God and that we're still bound to keep it today. Those are basic rules from there. But once we're in that framework, we're going to open it up to the most modern, to the most ultra-Orthodox, from Sephardic to Ashkenazi to Yemenite, to everywhere we could find halacha. We're going to want to bring it up. We're going to want to speak about it. Show of hands. How many people in this room come from Sephardic background? Sephardic background? Okay, good. Ashkenazi background? Okay, good. Both? Hasidic background. Any Chabadnikim in the room? Chabadnikim? No different Chabad, this thing. A little bit of Hasidic, a little bit of that. Okay, fine. Yemenites? We got some Yemenites in here? Okay, we got ourselves a Yemenite. Okay, good. Also two, three? Okay, good. So we have ourselves a bunch of Yemenites. Yemenite halacha be'ezrat Hashem. We're going to try to do some of that as well. And it gets more wild. Because in certain ways, it's a little bit more old school. So once it gets more old school, it's going to add some fun additions to the halacha. Okay, awesome. Okay, good. So what I want to do now is I'm going to post this in our WhatsApp group. Again, for those who joined a little bit later, if you've not joined my WhatsApp group for level 1, join it. We put it on the main group. For those that want to switch to level 2, you can also join the other WhatsApp group and take yourself out. Oh, a little bit about structure of Bar Ilan. The first 2 weeks right now are known as drop add period. The way drop add period means try out all the classes. Have a good time, test them out, see what you like, see what you don't like, see which professors, rabbis, teachers you connect with, you don't connect with, and then take them from the classes that you want. So right now, for the next 2 weeks, try out all the classes. For my class in particular, this is level 1 halacha. Next period, I'm teaching level 2 halacha. Don't try me out this week for both classes, but you can switch me up next week. Now, what I'm going to post in a second, I'm going to share in a second, are my notes that I wrote up for this class. I wrote halacha notes in English. I'm going to base it off my notebook and then go off topic whenever I want to. And the difference between level 1 and level 2 is that in level 1, it's all going to be based off the top halachot. In level 2, it's going to be based on the footnotes. Yeah, Izzy.
Rabbi, you said that over the next 2 weeks, do you mean since, like if everything stays on track, and we do go to we do have the group flights on the 23rd, we don't have classes next week, right?
We mean 2 academic classes. I mean, whatever those academic classes are, and I'm also assuming that the university this year is going to give us also an extension for a week or 2 if we really need it. They're pretty chill about it, especially for the Torah classes. What I want to say about the academic classes. So, okay, good to know. We have the Torah classes and we have the academic classes. The academic, now Rabbi Khan in his, what was posted today, you'll have different colors for what's Torah classes, what's academic classes. So this is under the Torah transcript. Torah transcript means that we're a 1 credit course, as opposed to a 2 credit course. That's like the main difference between the two of them, which also means we have a little bit more of extra leeway with things. The academic courses that are starting now, if you even think 10%, you might want to take that class. Like you're like, I don't know if I want to take biology. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Maybe I want finance. Maybe I want psychology. I'm not sure. You want to try it out now. Because even though we have 2 weeks to try out all the classes, they are going to already start like teaching material and they're already going to start taking attendance. Now, I have been told that attendance in general now with Zoom is going to be a little more easygoing. They're not going to be as intense. We actually got the okay right now to make a little bit of shorter classes as well. So the classes aren't going to go the full hour and 15 hour and a half that some of the classes normally go. So we actually have a little bit more of a chill zone while we're on Zoom in that area. So you don't have to stress out about it. Because the idea now is, I think, to just like start covering some material. So that way, when you guys get here in Israel as soon as possible, we can just jump into actual full classes. So we are a little bit more chill, but I do want to say that for the academic classes, if you even think 10% you might want to take that class, try it out. You could always drop it at the end of 2 weeks, probably at the end of 3 weeks too. So like it's not as square as I'm making it out to be, but it's good to try it out right now because there is material that's going to be happening. Make sense? Other questions about logistics kind of things, about how courses work, class logistics.
Yeah. On the Bar Ilan website, your classes, the advanced and beginners, are 2 different classes. So I think I signed up for both of them. Okay, so for my halacha class, pick one, and you have time to switch that up. I also teach a level 1 beginners class in parasha. So if
I did the same thing for the parsha class.
Huh?
I did the same thing for the parsha class. I signed up for both the beginner and advanced.
the Parsha class, I only teach level 1 beginners. There's a second Parsha class. There's 2 other Parsha classes. We have Rabbi Khan's topic. I think it's called Figures in the Bible or something like that. That course is at a different time. For right now, the courses are for the most part staggered. I think, like for that example, that one I think is another example. So you might have an opportunity now to even try out both levels, see what you like. If you look at the original schedule and you find them at the exact same time zone, so when we actually meet up in Israel again, you'll pick the one that you like the best. Make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Now, when it comes to Rabbi Khan's Torah classes, when it comes to Professor Tzvi Shimon's courses, they actually go on the academic, their academic courses as well. So they're going to be worth 2 credits. So also my Parsha will be worth 1 credit. That'll be worth 2 credits. If the number of credits is important to you, just realize that for those classes. When it comes to Parsha, for Halacha, it doesn't make a difference if you're my level 1 or level 2 for credit transfers. Yeah, question. Yeah, Judah. Yeah.
So, worst case scenario, we don't come back for like the rest of the year. At what point will it just be canceled?
So here's what I'd say about that. Bigger picture, I don't think we don't right now. The estimates. I've been speaking to a lot of like security people, and there's the Mossad security people and the regular. Nobody estimates that this war is going to go for a year. You know,
It's only escalating. You never know if Iran
Yeah,
joins,
you're right.
Hezbollah
You're right.
joins in, and then the
You're
U.S.
right.
joins in.
You're
It's
right.
not
You're
going to
right.
be good.
You're right. If the North opens up and different fronts open up and Iran gets involved, then we're in a different planet. We're taking it right now. I'd say as follows: our goal right now is, and we have really high hopes, and it's the prevailing opinion in Israel is that within this semester, hopefully as soon as possible, we're going to get rid of Hamas and be able to bring everybody in, and we as Israel XP, the moment we feel it's safe enough to bring you guys in, we're bringing you in. If you guys, those who want to stay on Zoom can stay on Zoom. There's no pressure to come in once we want to open it up. But once we want to open it up, and we're hoping it's going to be sooner than later. It's not wars in Israel, even bigger ones, don't tend to go as long as that for a lot of reasons. It's not a politics class, but there's international pressures, there's local pressures, there's a lot of pressures, and for the most part, even in our longest wars in the past, it hasn't gone as far as that. But I think the recommendation right now is that at least for this semester, people want to get credits. If you tell me the war's going to go so far that we're not going to have a second semester, nobody's thinking like that. People are thinking that for sure by second semester, everybody will be here in full force and in full safety. Like that's not even, we're talking about much earlier. People think much earlier it's going to be safe to come here in this semester. So, and Judah, to answer your question, I don't think even that far, and even thinking in that kind of a direction for right now. If things change, it changes. Judah, if things change, it changes. You're right. If things open up, if Iran gets involved, then life is very different. I agree. And then we're going to reassess. But for now, we're not in that zone. But for now, we wanted to start Zoom because first off, we want you guys to get credits anyways, at least for this semester. And we want you guys to get you guys in. We also want to start Zoom now so that when you guys get in, we're going to be able to, instead of sending you to school during a lot of those days, we're going to be able to, because we've already gotten some credits out of the way, we're going to be able to do a lot of trips and fun stuff. And we also want to add days in for the days that we're missing in Israel. We're going to want to convert them into like trip days and exploring Israel kind of days, which should be a lot of fun. And that actually, I have to say, we've been spending a lot of planning on that kind of stuff. Like, okay, what other things can we do? Where can we do overnights? Where can we do day trips to add even more to our normal Sunday trips and to have a couple more overnights and things like that. Awesome. Okay, let's get back to Halacha. If anybody joined before putting your name into the group, put your name in the group just for attendance purposes into the chat. And let's start. I'm going to share the screen now, and I'm going to get into my notes. I'm going to post this notebook into the WhatsApp group. When you guys get here to Israel, I have a physical book already printed up to give you guys when you get here. But for now, I'm going to post the digital one right after this class is over, and you'll have the notebook for the semester. Actually, good for both semesters, and you'll have it in digital. So let's share screen now. Now, for those that want like a more detailed syllabus with what we're doing every single week and a general outline, you can go on the website and I have like a more specific syllabus of like every step of the way the class is doing. But for now, just in general, we're going to be doing some daily halacha. That's just the main idea. Okay, let's get you on here. Okay. Okay, awesome. Okay, guys, these are my notebooks. See, women's edition is a men's edition. The beginning is the same, so it's the same. Okay, so today we're doing what's known as Intro to Halacha. So we spoke a little bit about Torah, Torah Chaim, a little bit the Halacha and Hashkafa of what we spoke about. Now let's talk a little bit about the history of Halacha. At any point, please feel free. Anybody have any questions along the way? Unmute yourself and start asking, because I think that's the bigger point of what we're trying to do over here. Okay. Fine. Okay, history of Halacha. So what happened? Comes along Mount Sinai, comes along God on Mount Sinai, and Hashem reveals himself to the whole Jewish people. Man, woman, child. Hashem tells us the 10 commandments. Okay, guys, big question. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Big question. Mount Sinai, God gives us the Torah. Is that the beginning of the Torah? How does it work? Anybody know? Is that the first time we find Torah as Mount Sinai? You guys heard of Mount Sinai? Everybody know about Mount Sinai? What happens at Mount Sinai? Greatest event in Jewish history. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes along, God comes around, and God says, "Hello." God says, "Hello, I'm here. I exist. Here is the Torah." This is the first moment where halacha becomes binding on people. But the question is, did Torah exist before that? Isaac, was the Torah before that? Any of the Isaacs?
I think so. I mean,
Probably. I'm assuming.
Probably.
I don't know.
A lot of the Mefarshim say that Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov knew the Torah, even though it didn't exist.
Okay, interesting. Good. So we have a whole
Correct.
approach by the rabbis that Avraham, Yitzhak, and Isaac had some kind of a Torah. Okay. What makes somebody a Jew?
Brit
What makes-
Milah,
Their mom being Jewish?
descendant
Okay.
of Abraham.
Mom being Jewish, or descendant of Abraham, or maybe Sarah if you want to go with the mother. You know, because Abraham also had an Ishmael. Okay, not so simple over there. Okay, so you say mom being Jewish. What else? Or how else?
A convert.
Convert. How does a convert become a convert?
They're based in.
Okay, you go to a Beit Din, you go to a court. What does the court tell him to do? Brit Milah. Got to circumcise. For the men out there, you got to do a snip. So we get a little snippet going on. Okay, good. What else?
They also try to tell them to not convert.
Okay, in the beginning, they'll tell them a little bit, don't convert. It's going to be too hard. Okay. Did they always do that, Charlie?
They only do it if the person isn't sure.
If the person is unsure, okay. They try to convince you otherwise. What if someone's dating a non-Jew? Then do the courts do it? Interesting. It's actually interesting because you're right. In theory, we don't preach. We're not preachers. We're not out there trying to missionize people. You know, we teach our Jews. We try to keep ourselves strong. We're not trying to missionize people. But when people want to join us, in the beginning we explain it's difficult. People hate us. You know, we can see that in the world. We're not the most beloved. But in certain times, we're not as strict if people are really show that they're serious or have serious reasons to want to do it. Okay, fine. So we tell them circumcise. We tell them what else? Anything else is another really big thing. Actually, two more big things you have to do to convert. Women don't have to circumcise.
Don't you have to go to the mikveh?
Go to the mikvah. Good. Go to the mikvah. And there's one more thing you got to do.
Keep the laws of the 7 laws of the non-Jews.
No, that non-Jews have to keep. You're saying good, but that non-Jews have to keep. But you're close. What else you have to say? You have to say, I want to keep the Torah and the mitzvahs. It's called Kabbalat Mitzvot. So 3 things for a male to convert. You got to get a little snip, Brit Milah, circumcision. You got to go to a dip in a mikvah, dip in that water, body of water. And number 3, you have to say that I accept the Torah. So now my question is as follows. Was Avram a Jew?
Yes.
So what
No.
did Avram have?
Avram was the first Jew, no?
So what did Avram do? So number 1, he circumcised himself. Okay, did it late. 99 years old over there, but he circumcised himself. But did he dip in a mikvah? We're not sure. Okay, but the last thing, did he accept the Torah and the laws?
Well,
Yeah.
he destroyed his father's idols, so.
Okay, good. But Torah wasn't given yet. Meaning the Torah wasn't given as a binding law to the Jewish people just yet.
I've also heard the idea that Abraham sort of was the Torah. Like he was like the basis of which God based some of his info upon.
Okay, good. Okay, Charlie, I like it. You're getting deeper. Ready? I like what you're saying. I like what you're saying. You're good. But now I want to ask from a legal perspective. What you're saying, I think, is very good from hashkafa. From a philosophy, theology perspective, what you're saying is excellent. Because did he embody it? Some of the laws that we have today come from the way they acted. You know, there's different ways. Those of you that are in my parsha class, we're going to talk about that the laws that come out in the Torah later on, do they come from the stories? Did the stories in Breshit lead to the laws later on? Meaning, did Avram keep the laws, or did Avram create the laws? Okay, that's for parsha class. Okay, that's already philosophy. But in a legal perspective, can Avram be required to keep the Torah if the Torah wasn't given yet? If God didn't come down on Mount Sinai and say, "Hi guys, this is my Torah. You have to keep it." Can Avram just say, "I want to keep it"? Is he even going to know it? How does he even know it? Okay, let's get a different question. Avram, I think, is so we do have this idea that if not legally, spiritually, Avram was the first Jew. Spiritually, genetically, Avram and Sarah, they are our forefathers, our imahot, our avot. So we consider them to be the first Jews, genetically and spiritually. Legally, it's not so clear. Okay, but Avram marries Sarah. Who else did Avram marry?
Hagar.
Hagar. Good. Avram had a second wife, Hagar, and they had a kid. What was the kid's name?
Ishmael.
Ishmael, and Ishmael had a bunch of kids who are causing a lot of problems nowadays. But comes along Ishmael. Is he Jewish?
I think in the beginning.
Ishmael Jewish?
How do we define Jewish?
That's a good question. So I'm saying somebody here had said it, but if the father is Jewish. I corrected and said no, if the mother is Jewish. Why did I correct that? Because we believe, like meaning in legal terms, Hagar.
That's still a circular definition.
What do you mean?
Because I said, how do you define Jewish? And you said, if the mother's Jewish. Well, how do you define if the mother's Jewish?
Great. No, good. Excellent. So meaning, and we know that Avram's mother wasn't Jewish. That we know for sure. And we know that his father was an idolater.
Okay.
So we know they weren't Jewish. Sarah's family is Avram's family, probably according to Rashi. So okay, were they Jewish either? But we have this idea that Avraham and Sarah were at least the first Jews spiritually, because that's when God speaks to them. He says, "Allah, Avraham, I choose you to make a nation out of you." So God kind of comes along and says to Avraham, "You and Sarah are the first Jews." Now, I'm still not clear if that's legal, if that's halachic, but it is some kind of spiritual kind of thing. So normally, how do we legally define a Jew? Either by your mother being born Jewish or you converting. So we can say that when Avraham maybe had a circumcision and accepted some of God's laws, maybe that was like a conversion for Avraham and Sarah. Their names got changed, kind of like, okay, that might be some kind of symbolic conversion. But now next question. Avraham and Sarah have a Jewish kid. What's their Jewish son's name?
Yitzchak.
Yitzchak, good. And Yitzchak and Rivka. And Yitzchak marries his cousin Rivka. Rivka, we're going to now go, she's one of our foremothers. We're going to call her Jewish. Why? Because we're going to say she converted. She bought into it. She got into it. Okay, we're okay with Rivka being Jewish. Now, Yitzchak and Rivka have two kids. One is named Yaakov. And what's the other one's name?
Esau.
Esau. Was Esau's mother Jewish?
It's the same mother.
The same mother. It's Rivka. So was Esau Jewish?
Yes.
Yeah? Let me disagree.
He was Jewish, but he wasn't a follower of Halacha.
Okay, he didn't keep halacha. We say so he was a bad. So Esau was a bad Jew. Meaning Ishmael will say wasn't a Jew because his mother wasn't Jewish. But we're going to say Esau was a bad Jew. Meaning he didn't keep halacha.
He was just non-observant.
Non-observant Jew. I just wanted to kill Yitzchak too, but that's a side point. Okay, but he was a non-observant Jew, Esau. Okay. And then we'll say he married a non-Jew. Now his kids aren't Jewish. Maybe we'll get his kids out of the way. They're not breaking things. So it becomes a really big question. According to most opinions, Esav is not a Jew, but Yitzchak was a Jew. How could that be? Esav's mother is Jewish. It's most opinions. All this stuff is like big arguments. But the idea basically most have is that legally, Judaism doesn't start legally until Mount Sinai. God came along and gave a bunch of laws, gave a bunch of halachot. For example, one law he gave Avraham was circumcise yourself. and circumcise your kids at 8 days old. Now, how old was Yishmael? Yeah, Yishmael also got a circumcision, but he was already 13 years old when he got circumcised, which is why Muslims until today, they go at 13. They go at 13 years old, at least the religious ones do. So we see that the rules that were accepted back then have ripple effects even until today's time. But along the way, they started accepting certain laws, and you read throughout the Torah, and you'll find little hints to which laws were being given, which laws were not being given. What's the famous example that even our forefathers back then didn't keep the Torah just yet? Charlie said they might have had some kind of Torah, but what is some of the early proofs they didn't have a full Torah like we have today? Let's get to the third generation. Who's the third generation Jew? Third generation, guys.
Yaakov.
Yaakov. Who does Yaakov marry?
Yaakov married Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah.
Awesome. How many wives is that?
4.
4. Can in old school Jewish law, can a guy take 4 wives?
He can take up to 18 wives.
Okay, very nice. Chazak. They say that recommendation is very good. Recommendation is don't take more than 18, and if you're crazy if you even go with 4. But what was the problem though with this 4? There's a problem with these 4. What was the problem? What's the problem with 2?
Weren't Bilhah and Zilpah prostitutes?
No, it could be, but probably not. Meaning that's interpretation. It doesn't say that. It says they were maidservants. So it doesn't say that.
Rachel and Leah were sisters.
Rachel and Leah were sisters. You cannot marry sisters. It's against halacha to marry sisters. So if we want to say that the Avot kept the whole Torah, how could it be? How could it be that they kept the Torah if they're marrying sisters? You just can't do something like that. So that becomes a big problem. Even in the Noachide laws, it becomes complicated if you can do something like that. So it becomes a question of, okay, what were they? So basic idea. There was some kind of Judaism back then, and there were some form of laws that they were keeping, but it wasn't the Torah that we have today. When does the Torah come about? It comes around in Mount Sinai. Yeah, Judah.
Why would he care about marrying 2 sisters? Literally, both of his parents were marrying their cousins.
Cousins is a little bit more normal. Even amongst
that makes sense.
Yeah, even in Judaism, you should know that even till about 150 years ago, marrying cousins wasn't so crazy. It wasn't. After the Holocaust, for example, people just paired up with their cousins and their uncles and their that because there was no one else to marry. And you knew somebody and you had to start a family all over again. We live in a privileged society today where there's thousands and thousands of Jews to pick from, on a daily basis, just get on one of these apps and, all of a sudden, oh, I like you, I don't like you. This is society wasn't like that back then. You weren't traveling so simple. So I don't think cousins necessarily were the biggest issues, but siblings always was. Siblings was always.
Well, Rabbi, it shows.
Huh?
You can,
You're right.
You can tell Jews are inbred.
There are some issues. I'm not gonna disagree with you. We have certain diseases that are amongst us today that slowly. But you know what? I have to say one beautiful thing that has happened in the last I'd say the last 70 years, last 75 years, is that we have had a certain level of ingathering of the exiles, and Jews are now becoming much bigger nation, and in that area we're becoming a lot safer and a lot healthier. Okay, fine.
Didn't Avram also serve his guests milk and meat when they came to visit him?
There is an idea that he might have served the milk and meat. A simple reading of the text might point that way. Did he serve them together or one after the other? What's rabbinic? What's from the Torah? Was it cold? Was it hot? So legally, I can get Avram out of that mess. I actually have over here in my bookshelf over here. I have 2 volumes in my house, this thick, about the laws of the forefathers and halacha. What did they keep? What they didn't keep? And these 2 volumes are all just questions about how could they do this? How could they do that? How does it make sense? Because it does get a little bit complicated. But it's fun. For those that like this kind of Torah, it's a lot of fun. How did the Torah law work before the Torah was given? But I want to say from a legal perspective, it was just the beginning of Jewish law until Mount Sinai. There is a mystical idea. There's one Gemara, a Midrash, and a lot of Kabbalah, a lot of mystical teaching that says that the Torah predates the world by 2,000 years, or more specifically by 974 generations, but around 2,000 years, the Torah predates the world. That's actually one of the hints to Breshit, the first letter in the Torah being a bet, symbolizing to the 2,000 years of the Torah predating the world. That's why we start with the bet and not an aleph, because the Torah, the I am the Lord your God, first commandment, takes place 2,000 years earlier. So there is some kind of mystical teaching, but of course it's Kabbalah, because there wasn't a sun and moon yet. So we can't take these things literally. We have to take it symbolic. There's some kind of Torah that did predate the world, something that was floating, some kind of morality that was floating until Mount Sinai. Okay, but then what happens at Mount Sinai? What happened at Mount Sinai? Biggest event in world history. What happened at Mount Sinai, guys?
We
The
got
Torah.
the
We
twice.
got the Torah. God speaks to us. What do we get? The whole Torah? What do we get at Mount Sinai?
10 Commandments.
10 Commandments. 10 Commandments? Everybody agree?
Moshe has taught the Torah, and then he teaches us.
10 Commandments? Everybody agree? We got 10 Commandments? Huh? Machloket. Argument. It's actually an argument. The mainstream opinion is that we did not get 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai. The mainstream opinion in the Gemara is that we got, anybody know? 2. Just the first 2. You guys heard that, Midrash? Huh?
Luchot.
Moshe is going to come down with the Luchot, and on the Luchot will be 10 Commandments. But according to the Gemara, according to the mainstream, now again, if you want to say there's 10, we can accept that too. It's a machloket. But the mainstream view says that we only got the first 2 commandments. Anybody, raise your hand if you ever heard this Midrash, that God started speaking to us, and it was so overwhelming that we died, and God had to revive us.
I've heard that.
You guys, you heard that Midrash? Now, welcome to being an adult. In my classes, you don't have to take any of these things literally. You can take them as mashals, as analogies that we're talking about being totally overwhelmed, or you can take it literally, whatever you like. But according to the opinion that it was literally, wow, that's really extreme. But even according to the opinion that it just got overwhelmed and it was just too much for us, we basically went to God and said, to Moshe and to God and said, whoa, after commandment number 2, we heard, I'm the Lord your God, and you can't have other gods. And after that second commandment, we came out and we were like, okay, God, whoa, too much for me. I can't handle this anymore. Can you, Moshe, you be the guy in the middle. You teach us the rest of the Torah. And then what did Moshe teach us? The rest of the Torah. He's going to come down with the next 8 commandments, but also the rest of the 613 commandments. So guys, if we have 613 commandments and God told us the first 2, how many are left?
Um,
It's not calculus class, guys. 613.
611.
611. Okay.
Rabbi,
And
isn't it categories?
Huh?
613 categories you said earlier.
613 categories. God gave us 2 categories.
Okay,
I'm the
okay.
Lord your God, and you should have other gods. Those 2 categories are so big, people are even going to say that the whole Torah is hidden in those 2. All the positive commandments in the first commandment, all the negative commandments in the second commandment in those big categories. But we have ourselves 611 more. 611. Now, for those that have never heard the word gematria, gematria means numerology. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, you don't have to. But in numerology, if you take every letter of the Torah, it corresponds to different numbers. Torah itself, Torah is spelled Taf Vav Reish He. Torah is the numerical value 611. So the idea is God gave us 2 commandments, and Moshe taught us 611, which is Torah. And that's why one of the first pesukim we teach our kids when they're born, when they're going to bed at night, when we wake up in the morning at school, one of the first songs you ever teach your kids are Torah, 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 Tziva Lanu Moshe, which means Moshe taught us the Torah. What is Torah? It's numerically 611. Because Moshe taught us 611 laws, God gave us the other 2, and that makes the 613. So there's even a hint in the Torah to the 611. Make sense? Everybody with me? Thumbs up if you're with me.
Do you know the tzitzit gematria? The one with the five knots, 8 strings.
Right. And then the word tzitzit itself is 90, 10, 90. What do we have over there? We drop the yods. We have one. The way tzitzit works, the numerical value of tzitzit plus the 5 and 7s that we're doing the knots and the ties. If you're doing it non-Yemenite style, you also will get the 613. But by tzitzit, it's clearly just a hint because we're going to learn Yemenites tie differently. The Yemenites don't have those numbers. Those were numbers that were created really after the temple was destroyed to remind ourselves of all the mitzvot because we had lost so much as we were being kicked out. Fine. Okay, guys. That's today's class. That's the intro to the opening of Halacha, where Halacha comes from. Next class, Ezrat Hashem, God willing, we're going to go through a little more detail about how the rules came about, how Sephardic, Ashkenazi, Yemenite, Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, all these things developed, and how we have ourselves our view of life, but as we walk, depending on where we come from, the street might be like this and like that, but really we're all following that same path in some way or another. Any questions, guys? Guys, thank you. Those that want to go can go. Any questions, you can stay with me. And thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Rabbi.
thank you, Rabbi.
You.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Rabbi.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Just how do you sign up for attendance again?
I just write your name in the chat right now.
Okay.
In the chat right now. That was my question.
I have a logistical
Thank you, Rev
question.
Menaged.
Thank you, guys.
I don't know if I should
Rabbi.
ask you, but
As of
how do
now,
we-
are we? Yeah, sorry, Charlie.
Have a good one,
Oh,
Rabbi.
Go
okay,
ahead.
it's okay. How do we figure out like our roommates? Do you know that, or should I ask?
Message Natalie, but
Okay.
she put together a pretty big a chart for kind of how that's gonna work.
Okay. Thank you. Bye, Ishai.
Bye. Rev Menaged, as of now, are we still on track for the October 23rd group flight, or given the escalated tension,
I'm not sure yet. I'm still
Okay.
still in a lot. I'm
still up in there?
I'm still up in the air. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I hope
Thanks
midweek
again.
this week. I hope midweek this week to have like a little more clarity on it. We'll send out a
Okay,
message.
amazing. Thank you so much.